I think that if I were to come to the company now not knowing anything, I think I could still do the job in a sense. But it's the fact that I know everything that was playing against me, the fact that I'm the founder. That's why I call it the founder dilemma. It's literally that. You just know too much for your own good. And that's just, I've seen different leaders. If you look at Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, the founders did remain as a CEO for a very long time. I think that can be done. I just think it's a bit more rare.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? When you think about what it takes to be the best leader you can be, you've got to make sure that you're willing to make some hard decisions. And this doesn't mean about taking money from outside investments and diluting your equity. It doesn't mean it's about merging with someone else. What this really means, the hard questions, are what's going on inside you. And in fact, what's the best thing for the company? Today, we look at the Egoless founder. We have a very special guest. He's been on the show before. Nir Polak is the co-founder, former CEO, now chairman of Exabeam. They've been on the Inc. list many times. They've grown over 600 employees. And what we talk about today is something Nir calls the founder's dilemma, really about, do you let go of the company and bring in an outside CEO at a certain stage of the company if you want to scale beyond where you are today? And we look at the challenges he was facing before he made that decision. Was it burnout? Was he tired? The board thought so. But what we talk about today will help you become an extraordinary leader. The Egoless founder is something that you can learn from and really accept that this is a path for you. Maybe you have some resistance around it, but I urge you to take today's message and be open to it. Be open to a new way of thinking and seeing yourself as you move forward in this business. Maybe you're not even close to making that decision, but you'll know when it does come that you'll be better prepared because you've listened to today's episode with Nir. Before we get there, if you're not sure what your next step is as a leader, how you're evolving, what's really most important for you as a leader, I think it's a mistake. I think you want crystal clarity in the skills and the mindsets that are necessary for you to be the best leader you can be. To take your company to the next level, you want to make sure you have all of those things really sharp. And you want to find the edges that you are pushing into right now. Many people just put their head down and get the work done and expect everything to fall into place. It doesn't happen just like that. Sometimes you've got to take a step back. You got to maybe look at some of the things and make sure you're going in the right direction. That's what I'm here to help you do. If you want to know what your next step is, what to focus on, my name is Gene Hammett. I help people like this all the time. The founder CEOs of fast-growing companies. You don't have to be on the Inc. list, but you do have to be hungry to want to grow and be an extraordinary leader. Just go to genehammett.com, click on Start Your Journey, and you'll be able to find out more information about how we could start that journey together. It's absolutely free. If you really want to be an extraordinary leader, just go to genehammett.com and go start your journey. Now here's the interview with Nir. Nir, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic. You've been on the show before, but I would love for you to introduce Exabeam. Just share us a little bit about what you guys are doing today.
So I was the co-founder and CEO of Exabeam. Now I'm the chairman of Exabeam. What do we do? So we're in the cybersecurity market, in a specific market called security management. And that's what you see in all of these security operations centers. You see that displays on the screens and all these pictures. That's us helping different organizations manage their security.
Well, we need it more now than ever with all the threats that are going on. Are you guys involved with some of these new threats that are coming in?
All the time. So the thing about security is you can't talk about it a lot. So there's not a lot we can share. But for sure, all these different breaches that you hear about, more and more operational technology, which has happened on the Colonial pipeline and just happened with the water systems here in California. These threats are real. And this is going to be the new front of warfare. And we're excited to help different organizations and countries defend against these threats.
Love it. Well, we're not going to talk about security protocols and practices, but we're going to go into the heart of what a lot of founders either will struggle with at some point in time or are struggling with it currently. And you have put some words in this, the founder's dilemma. Give us an idea of what that is.
So a bit of a context. Exabeam now is about 8 years since inception. And when you start a company, you're everything. In essence, you're building the product, you're de facto the office manager, you do all these different things all together. You're a G&A in a box and a lot of other things in a box. And as the company scales, you see that since you're the creator of the company, you know everything. And I think that knowledge of you knowing everything creates that hub and spoke management style. At least for me, that happened, where everybody came to me with problems and I would solve the problems for them. That makes the CEO the choke point, which is exactly what a company does not need to have for continued growth once you're, crossing 100 million and even more of annual recurring revenue. You need more of a systematic engine that is able to manage itself, and the CEO is really just pointing strategy and making some of the bigger decisions.
Well, I think a lot of leaders have felt that they're the choke point, or the bottleneck is one of the words I use up quite a bit. When you were going through this phase before you are now, before you became the chairman, what was really the things you were experiencing as a choke point?
You feel that I just felt that people would come to me with problems, and instead of sending them to do homework, I already had the solution. I would feed it to them. And then in retrospective, you kind of finish a call and you say, that was wrong. I should have not solved that. I should have sent them back. And the thing that drives me crazy the most is I was well aware of my tendency to try to help solve the problems, but I couldn't help it. And that's when I went to the board and I said, I think we need to bring in the next phase leaders of the company.
One of the things I've seen happen here is the easiest thing to do and the quickest thing to do is to give the solution, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
It's like parenting, right? A kid comes to you, it's exactly the same thing. Yeah. And you're trying to tell the kid what to do versus them figuring it out and making mistakes and doing that. And I don't use it in my parenting, but in the company I did. It's just because you want to make fast decisions and you don't want people spending time for getting to the right outcome. So you're trying to cut the corner and say, you can go do this and just go. And de facto, as a company scales, organization scales, you're hiring really good people. You should rely on them to do that.
And it flies in the face of really what we believe in leadership is empowerment. Telling them what to do next takes away that sense of empowerment. And it ripples throughout the company, because you probably saw that as your company was growing to 100 employees or 200 employees, this gets harder and harder, but it ripples throughout the company, because what do they do to their teams? They tell them what to do next.
And I don't know how much it was empowerment for us. I don't think anybody felt micromanaged by me at all. I gave them all the leniency to go to move, but it's when they had the tough decisions and when they would come with different ideas, they would come to me, or Nir would bless it. And de facto by that, it created a bit of a situation where all the accountability may be on the CEO versus distributed to his management team.
I love that. The idea in a perfectly organized, there's no perfect, but in a well-organized and healthy company, not everything rests on the shoulders of you, that they're making these decisions and they're owning the results behind that.
Exactly.
Before you got to the point where you saw this revelation that you had to bring in someone else, because we're definitely going to talk about that. What was going on so that as you led up to that decision to bring in someone else?
So first, of course, I spent a lot of time noodling on this, first in my own mind, and then talking to my wife and kind of my feelings and what do I see happening. And it was just more of a fusion of different things. Scale of a company, COVID was happening at the same time, all of these things. And I just found myself in this situation, looking at where we're going and the scale of the company, and just think, it is just wrong of me to continue in this position. We have to find someone better.
Is it because you didn't have the skills that you thought that would take the company to, $1 billion or to an IPO at some stage down the future?
I think that if I were to come to the company now, not knowing anything, I think I could still do the job in a sense, but it's the fact that I know everything that was playing against me, the fact that I'm the founder. That's why I call it the founder dilemma. It's literally that you just know too much for your own good. And that's just, I've seen different leaders. If you look at Amazon, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, the founders did remain as a CEO for a very long time. I think that can be done. I just think it's a bit more rare.
Yeah. It takes a lot of self-awareness to realize that you're going to play a different role in the company and bring in someone else, pay them a lot of money, give up probably a lot of equity to make this happen, to get the right person. But you had done a lot of deep thinking around that. What does that look like for you? Did you take some time away? Did you schedule time? How did you make it happen?
The process is complicated, but like any other CEO search is. But the way it was very simple. The company comes before Nir, and then you ask, what does the company need? And it makes it very clear and crisp. When you mean the company, you're talking about the employees in the company, you're talking about the investor, you're talking about your partners, your customers. And that just, if you put the company before you, it all crystallizes pretty quickly. And that's also true when it comes, you were asking about dilutions or things like that. It is still the right thing for the company because they're going to be building additional value for all stockholders, for all of the customers and partners, for everyone.
Now, you're not leaving the company. You're not going off to start another thing, as I understand. You're going to stick around. And what will be your role going forward when this stage 2 CEO comes in?
So yeah, the CEO is already in.
Okay.
And the role is focusing more on the product side of the house, helping with the strategy. It's the things that I love, am close to, I know, helping drive the execution of our strategy. Those are the things that I'll be spending more time with, as well as, of course, by the chairman of the board, you have to spend with a lot of board related items.
What did you give up in this? Because I know you're gaining a lot by focusing on things that you probably love to do, that the company needs, but the CEO is taking over things that you used to do. So what are the things that you gave up?
A ton, everything, from finance to the customer success, to the sales, to the marketing, and to legal. It's a lot. CEO owns everything. So a big chunk.
And how long did it take to make that transition?
Of the position?
Yeah.
It happened immediately because we've been working on it with Michael DeCesar is my successor. And it's not something that came out of thin air. This is something that we've been working on for months and months and months, talking about what are we going to do? How are the changes going to happen? How are we going to announce it? And all these different things. So it was a very, very natural change.
Has this changed your stress level in the company?
For sure. Yes, it has. My own psyche, yes.
Is it truly putting you in a position to do the most valuable work for you and given your strengths and your talents?
Yes, it is using my talents for the best benefit of the company, for sure.
That's a hard thing to be able to give up, all the day-to-day role. The identity as founder is a very deep rooted way of seeing yourself. I've been through this as I started my company, but you're willing to shift away from this to play completely different role in the company. When you think about your identity, was it hard in any way to make that shift?
Yeah, people ask me that a lot. No, it felt very right and natural. And I go back to that Northern Star of put the company before you. Nir is an Exabeam, and Exabeam isn't Nir. I created it's like a child. Okay. It's mine. I grew it, I taught it, I've scaled it. But it's about time that they move to the next phase. And that's completely fine. I don't feel that I am defined by my creation.
Nir just said something really interesting. You should put the company before you. Now, how often are you willing to say that you do that? You may say it, but are you really doing it? We make decisions about our own, compensation. We make decisions about how we're going to distribute equity and what the next moves are. And maybe you're really young in your company and you have made these decisions knowing that you're doing what's best for the company. But at some level, you probably think about what's best for you too. Nir was talking about doing what's best for the company and making sure that he made the best decision for the company. In this case, it was step down and bring in an outsider to be the CEO of the company so that he could focus on other areas of the company that would allow him to use his greatest strengths and add more value to the company and not be limiting the company because of what he knew. And it's a really big one. And that is a very strong decision to make. The egoless founder is the topic of this, but he set his ego aside to make that decision and do what's right for the company. I'm putting a spotlight on it here for you because I think it will help you become an extraordinary leader if you're willing to look at it from that perspective. Back to Nir. I lost everything about 11 years ago. And you know my story from being on the podcast before. And losing everything in a moment, I didn't have a chance to adjust to it. My identity was completely rocked. And I've talked to a lot of people after the sale of their company. They moved on to something else and they were lost and they were really struggling. I mean, I know it sounds good to get, lots of zeros in your bank account. You can travel, have freedom, no more stresses, but their identity was a complete hit. Was there something you did to prepare for that before this?
Yes. And we may go to sensitive places for sure. So for the last couple of years, I've been spending time with a therapist that specializes in CEOs. And we can do a whole separate podcast about this. But it is very much your life, your work. And what does it mean when you're, I want to say divorced from your work in a sense, but in who are you and who's that company? But because I've been so prepared for it, understanding what's going to happen, it felt very natural. It still is. I really love what I do. I love the company. And I feel really at peace with it all.
Now, hold on for a second. Nir just said something really interesting. He has a therapist that specializes in CEOs. Now, a lot of the work I have done has been sort of borderline deep psychological work. And I still stay in the coaching world. I still help you move forward just as coaches do. And I specialize in working with CEOs. But I do believe that you've got to be willing to do the deep work. The deep work, as you see it, is really about deciding who you are, what you stand for, and really making decisions from that place. Being willing to let go of the way it's always been, being able to face your fears, being able to figure out how to bring more confidence into what you're doing, be more courageous. That's the deep work. The strategy work, sell more, right? Market in a different way, go buy a company. Those strategies are very important. But the deep work is what will really make you shine as a CEO, create the space for you to be the leader that you really need to be. And all of this happens because you're willing to work on yourself, do that deep work, and do it with someone that can help you move forward. I specialize in this in my practice as a coach. And if you think it's a good fit, you want to reach out to me, I'd welcome that opportunity. I'd love to help you any way I can. Back to Nir. Nir, I don't want to unpack the things that you hold dear to you and are very private through this, but do you feel like going into the deep aspects of identity and your own internal thinking has helped you become a better leader for the company?
Yes. A lot of leaders have high EQ, high empathy. They analyze themselves all the time. That's what they do. They're their own shrink. It is. You have to understand, look, a company and the stress of a company is going to take you sometimes to the darker places of who you are and, your beliefs, your attributes, all of it. And everybody copes with that very differently. I thought at one point I needed help. I can see myself going into a dark place. And I said, that's bad, and then you figure out that it's not just you. The stress happens at a lot of other companies. My decision to look for success had nothing to do with that because I've long gone kind of felt very, very comfortable in the CEO position. But also I use these weekly meetings that I have to prepare for a transition. What's going to happen to me? Nir's going to lose control. How will he react to it? What does that mean? All of these different things.
Well, I appreciate you sharing just a little bit behind the scenes there. I want to go back into this, why people get stuck with it, because you thought about it before you made this decision. You had to go to the board. Did your board were they completely on board or were they a little resistant to what your idea was?
It's never like this smooth sailing. You go to your board and talk about it. The reaction of the board is, Nir, you're tired. Are you tired, Nir? Nir, you're tired. You should take time off, Nir. It's like it's that type of conversation. You're burned to this. And I said, no, I have the energy. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I truly believe that this is the right thing for the company. I truly believe that if we want to unlock our full potential, when you're sitting on this amazing market and you're leading this market and a lot of goodness happens, you can look around the corner and you can really see what's going to happen. And to me, I was adamant. I told him I'm adamant that we need to find someone. And then the board got aligned. And then you start a process.
It's a fantastic story. I'm glad it's worked out well. What would you say the biggest benefit of this to the company has been?
Look, when Mike came, you can see he's very seasoned. He comes in well thought. When I was looking, we didn't talk about what type of CEO I was looking for, but I was looking for a CEO that understands the market I play in, has been a public company CEO, has a great culture fit with me and the company. We spent a lot of time together, but is much more mature in his view, has seen much bigger scale, and you can really feel the difference. He just laser focused on what matters and doesn't spend a lot of time in the minutia.
I've got to ask you this. What have you learned from someone that has that maturity of running a bigger organization that you feel like has been very beneficial for you as a leader?
The ability to distill what I call distill the bullshit out of really hone in on the top one or two topics that are going to be the most strategic things for the company to execute on. And the way they come to that decision, they ask a lot of people, they learn about the business, they start building a point of view. And Mike did it very quickly, very, very quickly.
And so his first, I don't know, how long has he been with the company?
30 days now.
So 30 days, he's already made an impact that you're willing to talk about it, because we set this up just like, a week or so ago, because you felt like this message needed to get out to the world. I want to let you wrap this up with, what should other CEOs be thinking when they start to feel what you felt and concerned about bringing in an outsider to run the company to that next level?
Yeah, look, it's a very scary thing. I think the first thing they need to understand is the company is not them, and they created it, and the company is bigger than them, and there's a lot of other people that are on the boat. The second thing is, when you do look for a CEO and you are intending to stay in the company, you really need to care about the personal match, the chemistry between the two, between the founder and that CEO. And then it feels very, very natural. That's my 2 cents.
Well, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to find, being honest, because there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't have fit. I don't know if you had to go through that whole process. We weren't going to unpack the whole selection process, because I really felt like the heart of the story was about you being self-aware enough to know when to let go of something and bring in someone else that could take you to the next level and allow you to focus on what you do best. So thank you for being here, Nir.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to wrap up just a little bit, taking away from this conversation. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Nir's been on the show before, 650 employees, fast growth company, a fast growth market. And when he came back on with this idea, I was like, yeah, let's tell the story. You've got to be willing to let go of what you have today so you can create something bigger, better, make the impact. I think it'll be better for you as a leader. I think it'll be better for the company. I think it'll be better for the market if you're willing to really evaluate and let go. And I think what you should take away from this is, what's best for the company, not what's best for you. And if you make that decision and can really be honest with yourself, you can be a strong leader. And that may mean you continue on as a CEO. Maybe it means someone else does. But if you're not sure what your next steps are as a leader, I'd love for you to check out my website. Let's talk about your next steps of evolving as a leader. This is what I do day in, day out. Just go to genehammett.com. Go to start your journey. I'd love to help you get clear about where you're going next. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.